welcome to the Intuitively Wild podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Levine. Living intuitively wild is about coming back home to ourselves. Here, we talk about how to live connected to ourselves, others, and nature, and make a commitment to radical authenticity, vulnerability, and acceptance. On this podcast, we delve into a wide range of topics that span the human experience. We peel back the layers and talk about the things that are often not talked about. This is a space for us all to walk and wander this path of life together. Let's dig into our roots and go deep. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm very excited to introduce today's guest, Zoë Shaw. And Zoë and I actually have a bit of a history because we grew up in the same town and went to high school together. And it was one of those things where Zoë and I in high school, I think every single year we're in the same science class together. And so we went through a lot in that way and just got to know each other through school, but we never really hung out outside of school or anything like that. And so it's really cool to be reconnected through the yoga world and to learn that we are both so passionate about these similar or same topics in so many overlapping ways. And fun fact, Zoe's birthday is the day after mine, so we both are Virgos. We have a lot of similarities both in our astrological and human design charts, and so it was fun to connect over that as well. And Zoë is an amazing yoga teacher. She has her own business, Flow with Zoë. She goes into more of her offerings and everything that she does, but this conversation goes all over the place. We talk about our connection to yoga, how Zoë discovered yoga. We talk about purpose. We talk about social media. We talk about dating, which is something that I actually don't think I've ever talked about on the podcast before. And we talk about tools and rituals to support and strengthen our mental health and our intuition. Throughout it all, Zoe's personality really shines through, which was what makes this conversation so special. So let's get into the episode with Zoë. Zoë, welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited to have you here. We have been looking forward to this one for a while.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. My first podcast.
Yay, I'm honored. Okay, first question. What is something you wish people knew about you that you don't think many do?
That's a good question. I think people don't know that I really reset by being an introvert in a way. I am an extrovert. I'm around people all the time. I teach a lot of yoga. I'm in front of a studio room and space, but I really need time alone in solitude to reset, to get my mind straight, to feel good. And even when it comes to practicing yoga, which I'm sure we'll get into, I like to do it on my own, not really like knowing anyone in the space, journaling on my own, meditating on my own. I love community that yoga creates at the same time. Doing things alone recharges me fully.
That is a common response that I get a lot, is that people need more alone time, that they think they come off as extroverts, but they really need that introverted time to recharge. Is that something that you always knew about yourself, or did you learn that as time has gone on?
I definitely learned it as time went on. I don't think I really realized as I was growing up that's what I was doing. And then in my like older age, I was like, oh, that's what I need to be able to fill up other people's cups. I need to fill up my own, spend time alone, and then really feel comfortable spending time alone. And I think there's a weird phase of our lives when we go to college and everyone is hanging out 24/7, and you go eat every meal with your friends, you go to the gym with your friends, you're living in such close proximity. Like, if you're a freshman dorm, probably your bed is right next to your roommate's bed.
Hmm.
So kind of just realizing, oh, like I do need this time on my own. And I learned that a little bit in college, a lot after college. In college was when I started like getting into yoga a lot, and I would actually leave campus and go to like a random studio in Newark, Delaware, because I just like to be alone and have like my own thing that was apart from everything else, and it helped me really reset. So I think that was probably the beginning to understanding that I need that time alone.
I think there really is an art to doing things by ourselves and being alone because our culture places so much emphasis on socializing in a very presentational way. You want to be seen doing things. And it can take a lot of courage to be like, I don't need to be seen. I just need to be by myself sometimes. I am someone who loves doing things by myself, and people can often say to me, "Oh, it's so brave that you did this by yourself." But it really has been something that's been a core pillar of my mental health and maintaining my independence too. I think we have to practice being by ourselves more.
100%. And I think as we get older, I keep saying older, like we're not old, like come on, we're young still. But as time goes on and, you know, I am a single female in this society, everyone wants to think like, "Oh, what's your next steps? Like, where's your partner?" And people celebrate partnerships. People don't really celebrate individuality as much and just like being alone and accomplishing things. And that's also been something that has been super interesting working through as I've been creating my business and celebrating my wins and celebrating them alone versus celebrating them with other people. And actually, I'm still currently navigating that and being okay with, like, it's okay to celebrate my wins alone. It's just such a different feeling. Even friends, family member, partner, whatever it may be, and just being so comfortable with yourself that it's all good. That's all that matters. I'm proud of myself for these things that I'm going through and evolving with and succeeding or whatever success may be by your own or society standards. It's been an interesting process for sure.
Yeah, again, another thing I can definitely relate to. And it takes us defining our own version of success and also being able to just pause and be in the success for ourselves and really feel it for ourselves. And of course, it's fun and important sometimes to celebrate with community and with our friends and family and to have the recognition and acknowledgement for all we're doing. But I think celebrating by ourselves takes it to a whole other level because then we're not only celebrating societal standards of success, but we're also just celebrating being alive and celebrating bring more joy into our everyday lives just because we're doing life.
No, totally. It's so important to celebrate waking up every day and celebrate getting to do the things that we're passionate about and love. And it's taken time for me to get to this space, and I'm continuously working on every day. But even just my practice of journaling every day brings me to that place of deep gratitude. And I have the gratitude outside of the journaling practice, but it solidifies it a little bit more on a piece of paper and allows me also to really celebrate my wins and bathe in that excitement of being present, being alive, and also things that I have succeeded by my own measures, by my own standards in my personal life, business life, whatever it may be.
So, how did you first discover yoga? Because I don't remember when we were in high school together. I don't think that that was something that was as present in your life. What was that process like for you?
Yeah, so actually, my mom and my dad introduced it to me my senior year of high school. So,
Mhm.
like on the way out, you wouldn't have known about it back then. My mom was going to yoga classes at Breaking Ground, which is a dance center that I used to go dance at in high school. I feel
I
like you
never
were there too.
I was there too. I didn't know that they did yoga classes actually. That's so interesting.
Yeah, it was like this one woman would come on the weekends, Karen Young, shout out, and, like,
Mhm.
my mom once or twice would drag me there, and I was like, "Okay, this is weird, but, like, kinda cool, whatever." And then, yeah, so I started from there, and my dad has always been to, like, mindfulness and, like, interest my dad's very, like, spiritual, hippie, both of my parents are very interesting characters, so they both were really excited about me dipping my toes into yoga, and then when I went to college, my freshman year, I did this program called CALM, Care About Living More, by the wait, I don't wanna butcher this, by the Art of Living Foundation, which is a foundation that's from, I wanna say Boone, North Carolina. I think they actually have a center there.
Mhm.
Anyways, these 2 people came to our campus and we did a 5-day on-campus meditation retreat. I just remember freshman year, I was so interested in joining the outdoors club, joining a sorority, meditating more, doing philanthropy. I was like, let me just do everything and see what sticks and feels good. And I really got into mindfulness from there. I had a
Amazing.
therapist growing up, and she also gave me a book called The Art of Mindfulness, and I really liked it by Dalai Lama. And so it's that book was initiating me into this style of living, and then that program I did freshman year, and then I started taking some classes at school and was like, "This is cool." I discovered a place called Empowered Yoga, which is I went to Delaware, so University of Delaware is in the town of Newark, and Empowered Yoga was a hot yoga studio off of campus. I don't know who introduced me to it, but it was awesome. I would go at least once a week, probably on the weekends, and then I'd go to the farmer's market after, and it just made me so, so happy. I was like, "Wow, what a vibe," and I'm still doing it 10 years later. And, I mean, yoga throughout college helped me heal so much. College is such a transitional period. I felt lost in a lot of ways where I wasn't able to relate to a lot of my classmates. Delaware is a big party school. I am an extroverted person. I do like going out and having fun. At the same time, there is that, like I said, introverted side of me. And so yoga was able to help me reset, have that moment for myself, and then help me through whatever I was working through. And in college specifically, I was having some body issues, as many females in college do have. And I think just getting into a hot yoga room, being in a sports bra and leggings, and just feeling like literally nobody cares except me. And I just knew that. Like, I'm not here for my body, I'm here for the breath to movement practice. And I got into it more for the mental part. So, the psychological aspects, philosophical, mantras, the history of yoga. I was so interested in everything but the actual like exercise and workout of it. And that's what I got into it for, and it made me feel comfortable in my body. It's a vessel that holds my soul at the end of the day. Who cares what the body looks like? Of course, throughout the years, the practice has changed and shifted in a million different ways. But I think in college, it really helped me be comfortable in my own body, which was really nice because it wasn't that easy to do back then. And it's still not easy. It's an evolving practice.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is a topic that is very near and dear to me. And I can see parts of my story in yours. The practice of yoga, was it always a healing medicine for you and your relationship to your body? Did it ever feel like certain practices and communities of yoga made it more complicated, or was it always helpful for you?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. It was always healing when I was a student, like always and forever, and it still is to this day. When I started teaching, and when I started teaching actually in person in New York City, and I was going through like a weight thing. I had a bunch of injuries and I couldn't work out for a while and I gained weight, whatever. I remember feeling I've never said this before, but I remember feeling like, "Oh, I'm the yoga instructor, I should look a certain way because I'm inspiring and motivating these students," which is crazy because I don't care what my yoga instructors look like at all as long as they're teaching a good class. Like, it doesn't matter what the teacher looks like. But I also think that kinda goes hand in hand with Instagram, and with everything being on social media and everyone just taking pictures and videos all the time, and feeling like I needed to fit into a certain type of body and just comparing myself. And as always, comparison is the thief of joy. But that was a little weird mindset for me for sure for some time, where I was like, yeah, I feel like I should look a little bit more fit because I am quote unquote a fitness instructor.
I had the same experience, and I think it can show up for different people in different ways depending on what identity or label you're placing yourself in. But there is this stereotype of what the typical yogi is supposed to be. And for me, it impacted me in that way, body wise. And it was also like I always have to be calm and peaceful and happy and grounded and show up that way for everyone all the time, which negatively impacted my mental health as well. And it was one reason that for years, when I first started teaching full time, I was living in Hawaii. And so that was very prevalent there. But I was not on social media at all. That wasn't the only reason, but that was one of the main reasons. And whenever I did find myself on social media, it was so overwhelming and it messes with your mind in a lot of ways. So, how do you navigate that now?
100%. I just wanna honor that, and it does mess with your mind. I feel like if anyone says social media doesn't mess with your mind, perhaps you're just not on it.
Yeah.
Especially if you're putting yourself out there and being vulnerable and posting, you're always looking at yourself, and that's not a natural thing. Us human beings weren't meant to wake up and take photos and videos of yourselves and post it all over the internet and have a permanent image or video be there that can always be referenced and, like, your body looked like this on this day and this year, and then it looked like this 2 years ago, and then this 3 years. It's the weirdest concept, and everyone does it because it's social media, it's everywhere now. And we kinda grew up actually in a time where it wasn't as much a thing in high school, and I would say college slash now post-grad, it's huge. It's everything. Social media is how people market, social media is how people get any information. Going back to the question, how do I navigate social media now? That's a good question. I wish I had a clear answer. I try to post a little bit intuitively. I feel weird about it because I'm not consistently posting. I don't wanna be an influencer by any means. I also know that it is a marketing tool and Instagram has done cool things for me, meaning I'll post a story. I did this last week and I was like, "Hey guys, I'm gonna host a little yoga sunset sound healing session in a week from now, very intimate, private. Let me know if you wanna come DM me." And I got all these DMs and now I have this full class. I'm so excited. That's so cool that social media has that power, and I didn't really do much. I just posted a story, but it's because these people are already in my community. They know me. I love them. They love me. They come take my classes every week or they come to my events when I can host them. So that is just the power and the benefit of social media that you can connect and create community like that and experience things outside of social media. But the navigation of it, I don't know. Sometimes I'll post like once a day, once every other day. Sometimes I won't post for like 2 weeks at a time. I'm honestly really impressed by you. I feel like you're way more consistent. You definitely have something on lock, like a calendar. I had a social media manager. I still have her. She's amazing. Val, shout out, who gave me a calendar to like follow and to do this specific posting. But it's, I don't know, for me, it just like doesn't feel natural, too much pressure. And I am very busy. Like I'm running around all day teaching private clients, teaching classes. I freelance a little bit in fashions. And then I have the events that I just, a lot of things are going on. And it's like, how much energy do I want to spend on social media? Energy, time, money, time is money, yada, yada, whatever. But then on top of that, it's like, I know it has benefits to grow it and you can monetize it and it can be a great, like, another source of income. I'm still navigating it. I'm figuring it out. I think that's my long story short. It's an amazing marketing tool. It's an amazing tool to bring us together, but I don't know what I'm doing on there.
I definitely don't know what I'm doing on there either. I am consistent. I also have a, social media manager who helps me. And I also am just a very I love schedules. I do really well with schedules. And looking at our human design, that is one way that we're different, although in other ways we're very, very similar. I think it's all about your goals and your intentions, but overall, it comes back to checking in with yourself and being connected to your intuition around it, being connected to your intentions around it, and being able to be honest with yourself about what's feeling right, what's not feeling right, and why you're doing what you're doing. And so much of it is just trial and error and checking in. I don't think that there is a right or wrong. The most important part though is doing what's best for you and seeing how it's impacting your mental health.
Totally. I think I used to use it as a little bit more of like a journal. I was very vulnerable, get my thoughts out there, and I would write longer captions and such. And I miss doing that. Actually, I probably should go back to doing that because now I feel it's more I'll post if I have an event or I'll post a random quote or something. But yeah, you're right. There is intention behind it because I obviously resonate a lot with the quotes or the events. I'm so excited to get my people together. But actually, content, I don't really make, if that makes sense. I see everyone else making content that are helpful things. And I don't really think the things that I'm posting are that helpful. Sometimes I'm just posting things that I'm doing on my stories and it's fun. And this past weekend, I had a day of full self care. I got a facial, I did acupuncture for the first time, some yoga, did all the different things. It was so fun. And I don't really know how that's helping people, but if I were watching someone else's story doing that, I would in my head be like, oh, she's taking care of herself and she's doing all these awesome things. I probably should go take care of myself and book myself something nice because I deserve it. So it is kind of all connected. And I hope to inspire someone else to feel good and take care of themselves because they deserve it, obviously. And it's not easy to take a day out, just do full self care. But hopefully, in some way or another, it was uplifting and inspiring. And of course, Instagram is a highlight reel. So, that being said, that's why that's being posted.
Yeah, and I think that we don't always have to overthink it. If we feel pulled to share something, am always guilty of being like, what is the deeper meaning or purpose of this? But sometimes I just have to be like, the meaning is that I feel called to share it and people will be impacted by that in the way that they're meant to be. And I just have to trust that. But one thing that
100.
I also want to loop back around to is how a lot of what you were talking about is that your s the reasons why you like social media is because it allows you to create this community. That is the most important part of it. Social media is another tool to create community and cultivate connection. If we're using it with those purposes, it can have benefits. It's just about actually using it for that.
100%, and that's my whole spiel, I guess, on, like, why I like using it because it is keep saying marketing, I don't know if that's the right word, but it's an outlet for me to get these events out so people can sign up and come, and that is the community. So I've had a bunch of events this year. I started in March, I think I've done one almost every month, and I have students and people in this community. One has met me in a class at Aloe, one has met me on the street, one has met me here, there, the other place, and they are now friends, which is the coolest thing ever. And they hang out and we'll get coffee, and it makes me so happy. And that is the community aspect. And then next year, we're going international, like Flo with Zoe's going to the Azores, super excited about. I hope this community comes with me. And I love everyone, and everyone's so cool. Everyone's so different, but everyone's so open and vulnerable. And it's kind of like friendships in the way. Whenever I have friends from all different walks in my life, I love bringing them together for my birthday because I'm just like, everyone I'm friends with, I trust. I think you're so cool. And I know you guys will like each other, and it always works out. It's awesome. But it's the same thing with this community I'm cultivating through social media. I can't wait for everyone else to be friends and to just feel a little less alone. I hate the fact that it comes off as like marketing, like that word and that concept is weird to me. But if I replace it with cultivating community, it feels better. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it makes total sense. That's a conversation that I have all the time with different people and that I'm constantly struggling with because I also don't love the marketing aspect. And that's probably the hardest part for me with having my own business is I don't like to market myself and I don't want to
Yeah.
talk about things. Like I'm so passionate about all the things I'm doing and all the things that are happening, but I don't want to go on and talk about it. But in order for people to know about what you're doing, you have to talk about it. And I do think a lot of it is the wording because when I think about my intention behind talking about what I'm doing or my energy behind it all, it's not the same energy I think of when I think of marketing. You know what I mean? So when we
Yeah.
shift the wording to something that feels better for us, then we can be like, okay, I can do this then.
Yeah, it, like, resonates a little bit better. And also going back to your point, sometimes you wanna post something and you're like, "Where's this coming from?" I have that same thing. Is this ego driven? Does this feel like it's, like, showing off this thing or, like, whatever, whatever? It's like, no, just releasing that, the vritty, the chatter of the mind, the constant thoughts, and allowing it to be and post it and knowing that nobody actually cares that much at all. They see it for 2
Mhm.
seconds on their Instagram, and I think we get in our heads so much about it. I'm in the exact same boat because that also I think does stop me from posting probably a lot of things because I'm like, "Oh, this is stupid," or like, "Nobody's gonna want this," or whatever. But then sometimes I'm also just like, "Yeah, I don't need to post anything, like, nobody cares what I have to say." But then sometimes it's the opposite. I'm like, "Oh, this is cool," and I'll post a random 5-second clip video of me doing a headstand, and it'll get, like, thousands of views, and I'm like, "Okay, I don't understand Instagram, but whatever."
It can be challenging for me because I am a very private person in a lot of ways, and it can be really hard for me to be vulnerable or put myself out on these public platforms. And even in the smallest ways, it's like putting my face on there feels vulnerable for me. So it can feel like I'm like putting pieces of my heart, just like raw for everyone to see. And then I'm like, oh, it's really not that serious because other people aren't viewing it that
Yeah,
seriously.
100% understand what you mean. We are our worst critics. I will stare at my own Instagram profile and criticize my own things, and you're probably doing the same thing to your own, but I would never do it to somebody else's. I go on somebody else's and I look at it for 5 seconds and I'm like, "Cool, cool, cool, on to the next," and no one else is staring at it for a lot of time, which kind of ties into the whole dating thing. It's very interesting. So now I'm public and I'm like, this is weird. You can see things that I'm posting. That's a whole other conversation.
I've never talked about this on the podcast, but that's something I think about too. And when I'm dating someone, I never want to tell someone my Instagram because I feel like then you're knowing so much more about me than I'm ready to tell you.
1,000%. I never tell them my Instagram ever. I've had guys be like, "Oh, I saw your Instagram," and I'm like, that's just weird. First of all, keep
Mhm.
it to yourself. If you wanna stalk my Instagram, keep it to yourself. Don't tell me. And
Mhm.
second of all, I didn't look you up. I don't know, maybe I should be looking these guys up, but I just feel like I'd rather just meet you and not know things, and everyone probably people listening are like, "That's dangerous. So we don't go into dates if we're meeting in a public place. It's fine."
Yeah, I'm trusting, maybe too trusting sometimes, but until I know I like you, until I know that this is kind of going somewhere, I don't want you to know my Instagram. I don't want you to know my podcast. I want to be able to tell you the things I want to tell you in my own time.
100%, and I actually was just having this conversation the other day with my friend because it's just like what you said, there's so much on there that I'm not ready to tell you that. Not that I post an insane amount of information, but I don't want you to go on there and get all these preconceived ideas and notions of who I am and what I'm about, and if I'm too woo-woo or this or that. Just meet me, let's chat in person. If you get to know me, I'm not the most spiritually woo-woo person ever. I'm very down to earth, real,
Mhm.
no BS, New Yorker, Virgo, you know me. And I am a yoga instructor and I am in the spiritual world, but I don't define myself by that. Yes, my work is an extension of me to an extent, but I am not walking around thinking I'm floating on the air and that I'm higher than someone else because I meditate and journal and have all these practices. Like, no way whatsoever. I am your normal Joe Schmo. So I definitely think it's weird when, and I have had it happen before. A guy has been, oh, I just think we have different interests. And in the end, that wouldn't help. And I remember just being like, wait, you don't know me at all. So I have a feeling this guy went to my Instagram and thought, whatever he thought, and I'm like, I mean, for the best, because it obviously not it's not meant to be, but in the back of my head, I was like, "Alright, yeah, it's so interesting kind of having something public." I'm not a public figure by any extent, but there is something public of me on the internet that you can Google.
Absolutely. And even talking about me my mental health journey and certain things I've touched on with that, I'm so aware that it's public and I intentionally decide to share it because it's important to me to share it. And at the same time, I don't want someone to know about that until it's time for them to know about that.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, I mean, mental health journey, the body love, like what we were just talking about, even why I got into yoga, how it's helped me, how it's healed. There's so many different aspects and things that I post. And I was going through a breakup earlier this year, and I posted a few things on my Instagram about it. And it's like, do I really want some random dude that I'm gonna start dating who knows when to see and hear those things before I'm ready to tell them about it? It's a very weird thing, but like you said, it was important for me to post. It helped me in my healing and help other people who are going through a similar situation, and it just made me and whoever else is going through a breakup feel a little bit less alone, and that's the whole point of social media connection, feeling less alone, knowing that you're not going through these things alone. It's a weird thing. Sometimes I'm like, should I go private? Then I'm like, no, don't do it, Zoe. But I've thought about it.
Oh, I mean that, yeah. Like I said, for years and years and years, I was off all social media. I just got on fairly relatively recently, or got back on, I guess I should say. And I have these warring thoughts in my head. There's that part of me that wants to disappear into the forest. You won't see me. And then there's the part of me that is so passionate about not only the business I'm building, but cultivating the community. And something that you've touched on a couple times, one of the core pillars of everything for me is helping people feel less alone, and providing people with the support and the tools and the community to know that they're not alone, to know that they can talk about these things and it's okay to talk about these things. And so that intention and that purpose is what fuels me to keep going when I'm doubting it all.
No, that's so important. And your page is beautiful. And I do think you 100% do that so gracefully, making people feel less alone. Like, I have felt so much support from your content. Like, it's cool. It's really relatable. And it's really an outlet to not only feel less alone, but to also do that self work and heal from the inside out. So I think you're doing exactly what your purpose is.
Oh, thank you, Zoe. What Speaking of purpose, what does that mean to you? And what do you feel like it means for you specifically to live in on purpose and live in alignment?
So that's a great question. I right now feel that my purpose is to make people feel better in their body and their mind and their heart, feel a little bit less alone, and to cultivate community. And they all kind of go hand in hand with one another. I'm just speaking career wise purpose in my business, which is Flow with Zoe. So part of it is my private clients, and a lot of them come to me with certain pain, whether it be physical or emotional or mental. I have clients that range from 25 years old to 88 years old. So it's a big range. And I can confidently say I've helped everyone feel better, whether it be physically, mentally, emotionally, to some degree of what they're looking for. And that for me feels like the biggest gift of purpose. And it feels so good when I hear my clients say, I don't feel this pain anymore. My lower back used to hurt so much. It's gone. And they've been working with me for a few months or a year at this point, or my hips used to always hurt and things have shifted, or I used to have racing thoughts all the time and I couldn't shut my mind off. And now that I've been working with you, I'm able to be calm and take a step back and feel better about myself. Clients for all different reasons work with me. So the private client practice is something that's really about that individual connection and feeling better whatever they're going through and working through. I also teach at a few different yoga studios, so you could say boutique fitness studios in New York City. That is also the purpose to help people feel better, but it's not individualized. So I don't necessarily know what people are going through. And from that, when I'm connecting with specific clients or students that come every single week to my classes, that's where the community starts to happen. And it's really beautiful. And all these people are interested in like health and wellness and feeling better and living a healthier, more fulfilled life and bettering themselves. Bada yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Self-study, understanding and learning more about yourself, which is something that I was really interested in when I was going into yoga, and then helping bringing that, weaving themes throughout all of my practices and all my classes that I teach, to just have people think a little bit differently about the world and about themselves and about the vritti, the chatter of the mind. And so, anyways, long story short, circling it back is that's creating the community, that's helping people in an hour of their day, the only hour many times people get to take for themselves, to release what's going on outside of the practice and really drop into the present moment and feel good with themselves on their yoga mat. And that's all you need. Like, you don't need anyone or anything else, just yourself, your breath, your body on the mat. And you're just showing up. I don't care what you're doing. If you're laying in Shavasana the whole 60 minutes, you do you. Because I think that you are showing up for yourself, which is the hardest part of it all. And you take what you need that day. And as long as it's making you feel better, that's all I care about. there's a bunch of different aspects to it, but that's specifically career-wise. And then in my personal life, I also like to make people feel good. I love enjoying my friends, my family's company. I love enjoying life. I think that's super important and not taking things too seriously because it's very easy to take things too seriously these days, but it's not that serious. Like, come on. We're here not for a long time. We're here for a good time or a strong time. I say that in my class all the time. We're not here for a long time. We're here for a strong time. And if you're my student listening to this, you've heard me say that 2,000 times. So, hi.
Our purpose bleeds into every area of our life. There's no way to be like, my purpose in this one area of my life is this, and in this area of my life is this. I believe we all have these overarching purposes that are just a part of our essence, a part of our energy, and a part of what we're here to share with the world. And we can't help but bring that to everything we do, regardless of what we do. So there's going to be themes in all different areas of our life around how we're showing up and who we are and what we bring to the world. So that energy that you bring to your classes is the same energy that you bring to your family. It just is part of who you are.
I would agree with that.
When it comes to how you embody and work with yoga in your life personally, I know you shared, which is something that I also relate to. You love to practice by yourself, you love to be in your own energy. But what are the tools that you use regularly to connect you to yourself, to support your mental health, to live this life that you want to live?
I shared before that I like to practice by myself, but there's a caveat to that. I still like going to studio classes. I just don't like going to the places that I teach at, which is very
Mhm.
funny
No, it
because
makes so
I
much
teach
sense.
in so many different places in the city and I get so much free yoga wherever I teach. And yet I still choose to go somewhere else and pay money to do the yoga so I can just be by myself. And don't get me wrong, I love seeing my students at the studio. I love them all, but it's different when you work there and you have to show up in a certain way. And if you see a student, you have to be social and interact. And I'm not gonna be social even if I'm at a different studio that I don't teach at. I'm a friendly person. I like chatting. Again, extrovert, but I like to just practice me myself in a room full of people. I don't care who's in the room. I'm just like I'm with myself and my breath. I guess it feels a little bit not distracting if I know the people in the room. I don't think that's the right word. It's for myself, it's for no one else, and I don't need to know anyone there to feel like I'm getting something out of it or whatnot. But going back to what do I do to care of myself, was that what the question was?
Yeah, tools, rituals, things you do every day to support yourself.
So my favorite thing I started actually this year, again, I kind of mentioned I went through a breakup earlier this year and I got into a pretty good journaling practice, which has helped me so much find positivity and gratitude every day. And I'll explain what I do for the journaling practice. I also started to get a little bit more into meditation. I use an app called Open Meditation and they do guided 10-15 minute meditations every day. And it helps me. I am a very go, go, go type of person. So sometimes the meditations take a little bit of a back burner, but meditation can be in any form. It can be a walk, it can be just putting my phone away and like sitting in silence. It can be a yoga practice. I always say yoga is moving meditation. So if I have time for that like hour yoga practice, I am golden. My brain is able to cleanse and do the bubble bath it needs to do during a meditation, during the yoga practice. So I wake up anywhere between like 5 and 6 in the morning. Don't recommend,
I do
but not
too.
every
So
day. Okay. Good. I'm not the only crazy one. And then when I wake up, I usually have my journal right next to my bed and I do something and I saw it on a random Instagram clip one day and I don't know why it stuck with me. It's something called the Power 9 plus 3. And or sorry, they called it the Power 9. I renamed it Power 9 plus 3 because I like to do add-ons and such. It stuck with me so well because I've had a journaling practice since like high school. I have journals that go back to like 2012. Crazy things, like all these Oh my God, I love journaling. It's been the most therapeutic thing possible for me and to really connect with myself and just get it all out on the page. But this specific practice has stuck with me. So, Power Nine, you write three things you're grateful for, three things you're manifesting slash goals, and then three things that you're looking forward to. I have added on the plus three of three things I'm proud of myself for. So things that I've worked hard to accomplish. And then sometimes I add another plus three, which is three things I'm working on internally, whether it be relationship with myself, relationship with a friend, family member, even if it's like, let's say I want to learn a new language, actually discipline and sticking to Duolingo or whatever it is, something random like that. But it ends up being more than three things in each category just because once I start a gratitude list, it goes a long time because I have so much to be grateful for. Life is so good. And then it also ends up being not just bullet points. I'll like write a little bit, like a few sentences for each one. And it just feels like a really good way to allow my brain to do whatever it needs to do on the page, say whatever it needs to get out of it. It covers all these different topics from gratitude, where my feet are, to looking forward to the future, what I'm proud of myself for, which is like the past experiences. And it's cool to see throughout the days, whether it's like, oh, I'm really looking forward to this event. And then the day after, it would be like, I'm really proud of myself for crushing it and putting on this event that so many people felt connected and excited and shared with me how much it impacted them in a positive way. So it's cool to kind of see the transitions throughout the days or the weeks, or sometimes I'll be like, oh, I'm manifesting this specific, whatever it is. I'll say deal, but not really a deal, partnership, whatever. And I'll really think about it as I'm putting it on the paper, not think too much, like not hold too much energy and weight into it, but allow it to just be on the paper as something that I'm hoping to happen in my future. And some people say goal, some people say manifestation. Yes, there's the difference between the two, but it is what it is. I kind of keep it in the same category. It's been cool to see how this has developed over time. And you can do it in 10 minutes. I've really enjoyed it. It's made me feel grounded. I think it sets my day up when I'm starting the day with something for myself and not for anyone else. I like do not touch my phone when I wake up in the morning. If I do, I get bad at myself. That way you cannot be on your phone. First of all, who needs to contact me at that early in the morning? No one. And the reason I wake up that early is because I have clients really early. I need to be up early so I can take care of myself first. And then I'll do 10-minute meditation. I'll do apple cider vinegar and warm water and lemon. And then I'll make myself like a coffee, have my supplements, and be out the door. But that's my morning where I get to do things for myself. And when I do everything, it's the best morning ever. Doesn't always happen that way, but that's my ideal morning. And the rest of the day is a lot of usually taking care of other people, serving, whether it's me going to clients, me having meetings, me teaching a studio class, or me doing that freelance work. So it's really important for me to take care of myself in the morning, because if I don't do that, it's just the time goes and then it's the next day.
Yeah, that is one reason why I'm so passionate about morning routines and why my mornings are so sacred for me, is because that is my time for me. That is my time to hone in on how I'm feeling, how I want to feel, to get myself connected. I also don't check my phone because once you check your phone, it's a whole different energy. 'Cause there's such a special sacred energy in the morning, and then once you disconnect from that and plug into your phone or your technology or your day in general, it shifts everything. So I think right away,
100%.
waking up and moving into some sort of activity that utilizes that energy is really nourishing.
Yeah, even if I'm not responding to text in the morning, even if I'm just seeing the text, or even if I'm seeing who didn't text me, didn't re it's that energy, it's something. I just need the clean blank slate to be able to do what I need to do in the morning. Feel so good. I'm taking care of myself, and actually, to kinda add on to this, I started doing this since I've been single. I always had the journaling practice and meditation practice. I'm gonna be honest, it's so much easier to do it when you're single, because if you are in a relationship, there's a person probably sleeping next to you and you don't want to wake them up that early, or there's different things that you have to think about. So I don't know, we'll see. Like, I'm sure it will just evolve throughout my life, and I wanna feel rooted and grounded and be like, "I'm gonna do this every day for the rest of my life," but let's be real, that's probably not practical, especially if I end up having kids and they're waking me up at all hours of the night and getting 0 hours of sleep. So, I just for now, it feels good, and it will transform as my life will transform, but yeah, it feels really good right now that that's what I'm doing and to keep me grounded and continuing to pour into my own cup right now.
Yeah, we have to be able to be flexible with the season of life that we're in. Like life moves in seasons and cycles, and honoring whatever season or cycle we're in our own life is so important. And just continuing to check in with ourselves of like what we need in this season of our life right now, and just honoring that. So much of that comes into touching base with our intuition and trusting our intuition, trusting ourselves. And with that being said, I'm curious what your relationship looks like with your intuition. If you feel like you have one, is it something that you think about? What does that connection look like to you?
My intuition is something that I am able to really connect with when I am getting quiet in meditation, in yoga practice, in journaling. That's when I feel the strongest connection with it. It's something that whispers before it screams. In relationship, it's super important to be listening to it in all aspects of life. Right now in my career, right now my intuition's feeling so good. I'm feeling very aligned. Things are working. When things are working, you just allow whatever the intuition is saying or doing to do what it needs to do. When things aren't working is when you really need to get quiet and listen to it, I feel like. And I think that's the same with a lot of things, and I don't know if that's the right thing to do, whether it's like, yeah, if you're not going to therapy and then you're like, "Okay, I'm going through a rough time in my life. I'm gonna start to go to therapy now, or I'm gonna start to journal now, or I'm gonna start to meditate now." You should have all these practices already, so when it does get rough, that they're already implemented. But I definitely think that intuition in my past relationship was whispering to me a lot to end said relationship, and it was whispering until it was screaming towards the end, and it was hard. It was really hard. You can't ignore it, but you also can't fully be like, "Oh, I had this strange thought one day. I'm gonna just break up with this person." It's definitely a relationship that I am learning to tap into more. I'm learning to listen to more. My intuition is something that I would like to have a stronger relationship with, but I don't feel like it's a bad relationship right now, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Timing is definitely a factor that plays in. Sometimes we know our intuition is telling us something, but we're not ready yet to follow through on that. And so we have to trust that timing.
Yeah,
The more that we strengthen our relationship with it, maybe we'll be able to act on it quicker. And also, maybe there will just be times when we're like, okay, I know that this has to happen, but not yet. And that timing is part of listening to our intuition. And it's this constant process, it's a relationship. I always say that there are different steps to it. It's being able to hear our intuition, being able to trust our intuition, and then being able to follow through on it. And each step of that process takes different tools, and it takes patience, and it takes work to harness it.
that totally makes sense. And it's a forever practice, I guess, until the day you die.
So, living intuitively wild means living dedicated to your true, authentic self no matter what. How do you feel like you live intuitively wild?
I live intuitively wild by feeling super aligned in who I am and what I'm putting out into the world. Like I mentioned before, my purpose, helping people feel better in their mind, their body, their soul, creating and cultivating this community. I also am not a yoga teacher that's super uptight and by the rules all the time. I am very authentic to my own voice and my own power and tapped into my unique nuances per se. The things that come out of my mouth probably aren't very normal for most yoga teachers, and I own it. That's who I am, and I'm proud of who I am, and it's exciting to be living this way and not really feel like I have to be pressured to be an uptight yogi that has to be super strict and extremely disciplined and all these things. And I still have fun and go out with my friends. And I love a good dirty martini, and I will never not love a good dirty martini. And that's totally cool and balances everything. I know that sounds maybe weird, but I am also really into fashion. That's like, we didn't even get into that, but I have a whole
Oh,
background in fashion. I'm a designer as well. So I'm into a lot of other things that's not just yoga and not just this lifestyle wellness. And I think that all of these different aspects make me who I am. And traveling is super important to me, and connection.
yeah, absolutely. And again, this comes back to something we were talking about before, how there can be these labels and these boxes of what this is supposed to mean, of what a yogi is supposed to be. And we are multifaceted humans, especially both of us being manifesting generators. There's so much more to who we are, and there's no way that a label could ever describe that. So us showing up authentically, like that's our label. That's you being Zoe, is just showing up as who
Yeah,
you are.
exactly. And I definitely don't fit into any box
Yes.
whatsoever.
Oh man, there's so many more questions that I wanted to get to, but I loved this conversation. Thank you so much for being here. And please share with everyone where they can connect with you, be part of your community, all the things.
Thank you so much for having me, Rachel. This was so much fun. I love this podcast. I'm excited to be on it. Cool. I am on Instagram at Flow with Zoe, FLOWWITHZOE. And you can DM me there and we can chat. And I have a website that's in the works now, which is very exciting. So soon to be online. I might have a website by then too. Same thing, but .com.
And everything will be linked below, of course.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Intuitively Wild, the podcast. I hope it helped deepen your connection to yourself, sparked some insights, and inspired you to live intuitively wild. If you enjoyed this podcast, it would mean so much to me if you would share it with others and leave a rating and review. And please reach out to me. I would love to connect with you. I will see you next time for more magic.